Okay, hold on. I found one. Continue.
This is fun discussing the show with you guys.
But yeah, it's probably another one.
Yeah.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 amazing TV shows that slowly died.
Then the position was
I heard Dexter was good.
Well, this is subjective, but I can't wait to see what they think, what shows died, so I can give my own. Maybe I can give a counter argument to it.
It's unbelievable.
For this list, we're looking at the television shows whose quality decreased
That's Big Bang
over
Theory.
until
Yeah,
the
I
other-
watched it.
Not even kidding. With the Big Bang Theory, I like its British version better.
Really?
Or
Interesting.
continue.
I never cared for the show at all.
Speaking
I
of
might
which,
watch it. I never watched it either, but I hear Shelton's the
The
fucking.
Walking Dead. This post-apocalyptic zombie
I-
survival
the
show
IT crowd's
has seen better
different
days.
I can understand. I can understand why people say it died because it is a long time decade show, but and don't get me wrong, Walking Dead definitely had some.
Although still a popular
Yeah,
show,
Walking Dead definitely had some dead seasons, and I can understand why some people would no longer want to tune in. But
Honestly, I still, first of all, the whole premise of the show, it's still got it still has it.
it does have this. See, here's the thing:
Now,
it's
of
a
course,
zombie.
I mean, when it first started out, of course, it was
Departure of
boom.
series protagonist Rick has
Maybe out of every TV show, I think Walking Dead have the most bias with. That's why. See, when they're vegans, yeah, because I think
Number 9.
it's a show that I favor out of everything else. I don't think I don't think I have the guts to say that. See, it might have lost it, it might have not, but either way, I just can't say it's dead. I just don't have it in me to say it. But I don't think it is. It's had some dead seasons. I agree. Season 7 was a dead season. Season 2 and 4 were like meh, but it has some great storylines, like
Although the show
especially
had one
Negan's
of the most
storyline.
divisive finales of recent memory, How I Met Your Mother had been going downhill for a while.
Yeah, I never watched that, so I cannot give it my.
I watched it when they syndicated on Fox Carolina, so that's when I watched it. And
interests, questionable plot lines, and Ted's continuing obsession with Robin left a lot of fans tired of the show. So
I thought it was funny.
Finally met the mother.
See, I'll say SpongeBob's going downhill 100%.
well, that's because they fraterized everything.
I have to love this woman as much as I can.
Also, just because I think they're just writing down ideas for the humor.
For a second.
That's the thing.
Number 8. True Blood.
Never heard of this.
Oh, I know of it.
A show focused
I
on
never
sex
watched
and
it.
vampires
Gotcha.
was always going to be a bit of a guilty pleasure, but True Blood managed to give audiences what they were embarrassed to admit they wanted in a fun format, at least for a while.
I'm a fairy? How fucking late.
Oh hell no, I'm not watching that.
Blood
Okay.
and Horse.
What the fuck is that?
More creatures and concepts got
You said
introduced,
it.
leaving for a convoluted lore.
I'm turning it over.
Aware what? It also left less time for the characters that hooked us initially to get the spotlight, or to have motivations that made sense.
I think that's how Anna Paquin and her husband met.
Far more blatant and less well written as time went on.
I cannot say that I've had the pleasure. Can we close that down?
Number 7, Supernatural.
Why do you sound like Tom?
Yes,
I know about what else?
The
Two
first
brothers
three
battling
things
supernatural forces.
were awesome.
Agreed. I agree.
Then we
I
stopped
agree.
watching it after.
There's
Yeah, we
nothing
fell.
but a what a dragon's like natural house.
It took a tried and true
The
formula.
only
of
these two
different
pretty boys
monster
kept all the
movies,
girls like
and
inclined
long
and like
arcs.
kept
However, the
with
show's
people with the
creators-
show.
My mom liked
Five. After
Kept them
completing
milk
the story
seeds.
My mom liked
the
Dean.
show has continued for 10
Dean
years.
is the one with the
after
long
that.
hair, or is that Sam?
Supernatural has run through what feels like
That's Sam.
every mythological figure or creature in existence. The Winchesters have died and come back a dozen times, and nobody else can stay dead for long.
Really, I did not know that. That's
Season 15 is enough already. Although we would not be surprised if there's a revival at some point.
yeah.
Number
What's that?
6, The Big Bang Theory.
But
While there are
finally,
certainly those who
it is.
dislike
Thank
this
God.
sitcom from the beginning,
The IT
there's no
crowd is
denying
better.
that The Big Bang Theory was a massively popular show for most of its time.
Fun fact, did you know baby boys can pee straight up?
Okay. Duh. I
Boys
was.
do. Why would we high five that?
However, many
That's
feel that as the
kind of
creators
I feel like
from
it's us to
beginning their
respond to
respective
that to say grown up.
relationships, but the plots about science and geek culture took a backseat to typical relationship humor.
Whatever, put us on the internet. Always wanted a wedding with a comment section.
Oh, it was funnier in the
Other
beginning.
repetitive plot points and the gradual flanderization of the characters into one-note versions of
Yep,
their original selves
flanderization
caused longtime fans to see the show departing not with
Yes, I never watched the show at
Could
all.
not be removed from my own project?
And it wasn't easy. Apparently you're
I
very
watched
first
it.
place.
You know, it's like one season or two, but
They consider Dr. Bart quite a step down. I was trying to pick my moment to leave. This was like it.
Number 5, Dexter. Despite
I've
following
heard this
serial
was
killer
good
who targets
show.
other killers,
I heard
Because
this.
those who kill serial killers like scumbags.
and a title character whose
Nice. I heard the ending was controversial, but
proved surprisingly relatable. However, many
Well, not
feel the
maybe-
show peaked midway through and lost
But
its way.
a show's ending is going to determine
featuring bizarre plot
my whole
twists
experience
and
enjoying
And
the
no,
show.
he didn't die or get I forgot. I told how it ended, but whatever.
If I love you, I went to the church that night that you killed Travis Marshall to tell you that I'm in love.
By the way, that's his
Although
dead
Dexter's
sister.
later seasons had some high points, by the time its despised finale aired,
Oh, by the way,
diehard
Michael
fans
C.
were
Hall.
feeling like what they loved
North
about the
Carolina
show had
native.
sliced up into smaller pieces for easier disposal.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Harrison. I just want to tell you one last time that I love you.
I love you too.
Number 4, Lost. It can be easy to forget, but Lost was the water cooler show of its day, sparking plenty of heated discussions.
They come, fight, destroy, and corrupt. Always ends the same. It only ends once. Anything that happens before that, just progress.
Fans would dissect every frame of this show about plane crash survivors on a mysterious island. However, as time went on, it's possible that Lost's greatest strength became its greatest weakness, as the increasingly complicated mythology alienated casual viewers.
Back to the future, man. We came back.
What is this show about?
I think they crashed on a deserted island, and it goes through their issues.
Isn't this show like 5 or 4 seasons or something?
It went from
Some fans argued the show
2004
remained engaging throughout.
through
Others disliked it
2010, I think, is when it ended.
They were not for a whole
Despite
series?
another highly polarizing finale, the show's legacy
It was a whole
became far
series.
more
I remember it.
powerful than
It was
might
a
have otherwise been.
critically acclaimed show during the late 2000s. I know, because I remember the ads.
I mean, I haven't watched it.
2.5 Men.
But that's
Essentially
insane
patterned with
that
the
you can
Chuck
spend a whole
Norris
series on
sitcom.
an island. That's like
Another
5 seasons.
long-running
Like one
sitcom.
season.
2.5 Men
I can understand that. Maybe 2 at least. But
trying and often failing to live with each other while raising a younger son.
that is
Nothing
almost.
for us to do. Make love and be together. You know, drink.
Although it's easy to point to the firing of lead actor Charlie Sheen and his replacement
He
Dale
made
bringing
the show.
chemistry to the table,
Charlie
the show
Sheen.
struggled with
I wonder if that name sounds familiar.
formulas and static characters.
Oh my gosh, you were behind on the Sheen
I
song?
had no
Yeah.
idea that the water would be that cold.
Oh man, I'm gonna find a video to explain it all.
Sheen's
Awesome.
departure just led to a steeper fall.
Does that kill him?
Yep.
I'm dead.
Number 2,
No, that is
Family
Sheen.
Guy. Family Guy has always been controversial, given that the animated sitcom uses hot-button or offensive issues in its jokes, and relies on cutaway gags for a lot of its humor.
I took your DNA and inserted it into my temporary uterus through my fertilization device. Oh my god, you're serious! People are gonna think I had sex with a male baby and then got him pregnant.
But the show gained enough of a following that it was brought back after being cancelled. Yet, as time has gone on,
Okay, it
the
was
show's
cancelled.
strength has worn thin. The characters have become vehicles for jokes, and the show has pushed past boundaries to remain relevant.
You've given me a wonderful life. I love you all.
Even creator Seth MacFarlane has stated that Family Guy should have ended years ago. The fact that it's still going is almost as sad as our number 1.
Is he supposed to replace the chicken?
Before we unveil our number 1 pick for the show that ruined its own legacy, here are a few honorable mentions.
When's our little buddy of yours coming back?
Scrubs.
Never watched it.
He's on for
It was on Comedy Central when it was
He's right here
syndicated.
at me.
I can say.
But I'll be hiding him. But he's coming back now, after his vacation. No.
I don't know why this reminded me of Walking Dead Bet. That one season 5.
No one ever saw him again.
With Scrubs. You know the hospital storyline with Bet season 5 with the cops?
God.
Yeah. The Scrubs reminded me of that.
No, that didn't happen. Sorry, brother. I still can't believe our little hive went off and married.
I will always love that show.
If you have to carry the show on without airing, yeah, you know it's dragging.
Mom, don't stay open.
Enough. I have somewhere to be too.
I think-
I'm not walking the rest of the way in glass slippers.
Jack, I heard about what you went through. You okay?
Yeah.
24.
Before we continue, be sure to
That South Park,
good.
it deserves to be as long as I love South Park. Yeah.
You have the option to be
It
notified.
deserves to go as long.
Well, I mean, I think after
If you're on your phone,
one season 8, that kind of went downhill, and they brought it back for a while, but
Number 1, The Simpsons.
you'd have to watch the whole
No
series.
mistake. The Simpsons
Yeah,
is
it
a
was-
cultural
It was a big deal for
The
it.
show is among the most beloved animated shows ever made.
Am I so out of touch?
But many feel that the golden days of America's animated family are long behind them, though there's some debate as to when exactly it began to decline.
I have never been happier or prouder to be Seymour Skinner. You're not Seymour Skinner.
Skinner.
Skinner? Skinner? I'm Skinner.
One of the most common complaints
For the
is that the
future?
show has been on so long that it's repeating itself. While the floating timelines allow for easy jumping on points, the inconsistent character development can be alienating to longtime fans.
You know something, Bart? I'm getting tired of things like that.
Plus, some of the episodes just get bizarre. We only hope that when it finally does end, it ends with a woohoo rather than a no.
A prayer. A prayer in a public school. God has no place within these walls, just like facts have no place within organized religion.
Do you agree with our picks?
Well,
Check out this other
well,
reason.
it's kind
You're going to offend a lot of people now with that line.
It takes a special brand of infuriating to piss off fans this much. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 TV moments that made fans rage quit.
What is this place?
Welcome to the secret land of the duckies.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're reluctantly looking back at outrageous scenes in our favorite TV shows that drove fans away, whether through bad writing, killing off a beloved character, or moments that were just plain difficult to watch. We'll be excluding terrible series finales. We're looking at you, Dexter, because at that point it was too late to rage quit. Caution, there will be heavy spoilers, and even heavier headaches. Number 10, The Lottery, Roseanne. For the first 8 seasons, Roseanne was praised by viewers for its accurate portrayal of the life of a working-class family. However, all that changed in season 9 when the Connors became millionaires after winning the lottery. This might be a great thing for a family constantly striving for financial security, but it also completely abandoned the original theme of daily monetary struggles that made the sitcom feel so grounded. In fact, the whole season became so surreal that it might as well have just been an entirely different show.
You know, going to a lot of movies, a lot of plays, stuff like that. We'll travel.
We can take one on Kathy Lee tour.
Fortunately, Roseanne winning the lottery turned out to be just a part of her coping story at the end of the season.
And all is forgiven, sweetheart. All is forgiven.
Number 9, selling out Jesse. Breaking Bad. Walt originally hired Jack's neo-Nazi gang to kill Jesse, only to end up in a trap and almost arrested. When the white
My dad watched the show.
Jesse goes into hiding, but Walt reveals his hiding spot without
I finished the show till the end, way back in 2013. It was pretty. It's a good show. It's awesome. First few seasons are depressing as fuck, but by season 3, it's
Yeah, he's got
till the end.
cancer.
Reveals instead that he's allowed Jesse's girlfriend to
It gets so much better by season 3, though.
While the episode itself has been called one of the series' best, Walt's actions are nothing less than despicable towards someone whom he once called a partner, and considering all he's done to Jesse already, that's really saying something. Number 8, Laurel Lance's death. Arrow. Laurel was Oliver Queen's main love interest, and the second to don the Black Canary identity. While the character divided fans, she struggled through addiction and persevered to become a formidable hero in her own right, until the writers suddenly killed her off in season 4. Even besides the fact that it broke the Arrow Canary tradition, her demise restarted all these violent tendencies, reducing Laurel to woman in refrigerator status. Upsetting some fans further, it seemed like Laurel was given the short end of the stick just to make room for the Oliver-Felicity relationship, which has proven a rocky roller coaster of its own.
What am I supposed to do? Apology. Oliver, I'm just supposed to move on?
Number 7, Jumping the Shark. Literally. Happy Days. In this infamous episode, the Happy Days gang leave the drive-in diner behind for the beach, where Fonzie water skis over a jump, and a huge shark.
Rosie! You okay?
The Fonz might
Alright, I
have
found
to
Yeah,
fix
I'm sorry.
I found what it helps explain what happened to Charlie.
Alright,
Seeing him pull off
let's
such
see
an
it.
over-the-top stunt was
Or
so
you can cue
ridiculous
it up.
that it spawned the phrase "jumping the shark," used to describe the moment when a beloved TV show
Let me know when
resorts
it's done.
to cheap gimmicks to try to stay alive.
You were all the time if you were going to make it, huh?
Yeah, I did.
The Fonz may have made that jump and silenced the skeptics on the beach.
Also had to
but would it be
confirm
best
something with me real
to
quick.
stay on shore?
When you were guessing my last
Number
stream,
6,
did you
The
pass
West,
out like for a
Game
bit?
of Thrones.
And I woke
Game
up.
of Thrones has gotten away
Oh.
with some pretty
No,
gruesome
I
content over the years.
Because you were like silent for a bit. We wanted the impression if you were, we wanted the impression if you passed out or if you were okay or something.
Oh, where? Sometimes I'll mute it and
That's
just.
not even the word.
Oh yeah, okay,
Something?
no worries. As long as you're okay, then that's fine.
That night, Ramsay orders her to undress and then rapes her off camera while
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing
No.
those. Don't watch this. Don't watch this.
Unsurprisingly, this scene horrified viewers thanks to the graphic, nauseating imagery and terrifying tension. Others felt that the scene was unnecessary.
No, the reason why this is
and
so horrible is
only added
because
shock
this
value.
character is supposed to be
At
16
least
or
we got to see
17%.
Ramsay meet a fitting
But yeah.
end in a later episode. Number 5, The Funeral, 2.5 Men. Following Charlie Sheen's controversial dismissal from 2.5 Men, the character had to be written out of the show, so they decided to kill him off screen at the start of season 9. If killing Charlie wasn't enough to rile up fans, the spiteful funeral scene definitely did the trick.
Charlie Harper was the love of my life and a wonderful, wonderful man.
Not only is it implied that he was murdered, but everyone shows up just to heckle the service, in front of his family no less. Even if Sheen and the show staff parted on bad terms, fans found this little send-off more tasteless and immature than funny. However, Sheen got the last laugh by reportedly enjoying the funeral scene, calling it eerie but fun. Number 4, Lex's death. The 100.
He must have
Lexa
kind of
was a
perfectly.
popular
At
recruiting
least he
member on
can
the
take the
100,
joke.
thanks
Yeah,
to the complex
yeah.
character and budding romance with Clark.
Just he's
So
been
naturally,
on
the show
drugs,
decided to have her
problems for 20
accidentally
years
gunned down and die in her lover's arms. Wait, what? As you can imagine, fans were outraged that the show would succumb to the bury your gays trope, an unfortunate convention in which gay characters are treated as expendable and often killed off in the middle of romantic subplots, basically insinuating that LGBTQ+ characters can't have happy endings. Buffy the Vampire Slayer faced similar flack from their fans after killing Willow's girl Tara. At least on the 100, Lexa and Clark got to say goodbye. Number 3, The Brian Ratings Trap. Family Guy. In the episode Life of Brian, Brian and Stewie are about to enjoy some wholesome street hockey when a runaway car
Literally
suddenly
the
runs Brian over. He passes away a short time afterward, and while the rest hard to tell when exactly The Simpsons started losing its touch, but a lot of signs point towards season 9's The Principal and the Pauper.
Mother! She's my mother!
It turns out that Principal Skinner, an established character since the very first season, is actually an imposter, a former street punk mentored by the real Seymour Skinner. When the original Skinner was declared dead, the imposter assumed the role in his honor, until the genuine article suddenly returns. What's even more aggravating is that in the end, everyone ditches the real deal and decides to forget that the whole incident ever happened, which it really never should have.
But I'm a hero! And we salute you for it. Now don't come back.
Well, yeah, I saw that.
Without calling it quits, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
It was you. What were you thinking?
They already knew.
Damn it, Sherry. The way you keep the
What is this WatchMojo's video called?
I am protecting you.
Protecting me from what?
Famous, like, rage quit. Oh yeah, I think his wife cheated on him. That was the president. And the first season quit one thing.
Let's feed for Wally's life. Hand him over, it's yours.
I can't do this all on my own. I know I'm Superman.
Oh yeah, Spring Break. I heard that was a good one. Wait, he got out, I guess.
I'm right here. And I'm fine.
Oh yeah, the
There was so much more Bobby. It seemed so real.
They also reference that in Family Guy.
And I was there.
Number 1, Carl Grimes, The Walking Dead.
Oh,
The Walking Dead definitely knows how to shock people, whether with the naked
Are you talking about him dying? Yeah.
killing off Carl Grimes. We witness Carl's slow.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kinda happy this is number 1.
TV kids into a hardened,
I'm not gonna lie, I
mature
hated
man.
that Carl
His run to an
died.
abrupt
Same.
end in season 8 when he was bitten by a walker.
Dude, I was literally fucking. My eyes were like bloodshot red crying watching him when first came out.
Savior.
It's not supposed to be like
I don't know. I don't want to see this again,
Given the
please.
future of the show, but instead the writers made him as disposable.
I remember when Glenn was dying. I remember I was in bed.
Oh,
I
and,
was hearing my mom basically watching it, and I heard
See, here's the
her
thing.
screaming, and he
The
was
reason
getting
why,
bashed,
the
and I was
reason
like,
why they reason why they killed off Carl, it wasn't Channel Riggs didn't want to he didn't want to leave the show. It wasn't because of that. It was actually a writing decision. It was actually to help Rick like spare Negan because Carl obviously wanted peace between them.
Yeah.
See, the writers believe that because Rick is a completely different character in the show than he is in the comics. In the comics, he's actually more nicer. He's actually he shows mercy more than he does in the show. In the show, he's a bit of an asshole, right? So basically, yeah. So in the show, they didn't believe that it would be that they thought it would be completely out of it wouldn't be realistic. It would be completely out of character for Rick if he chose to like let Negan live like in the comics. So they killed off Carl as a plot device to motivate Rick to spare Negan's life. Yeah.
Thanks.
I know.
I want you to hit as hard as you can.
What is this?
Charlie Sheen.
what happened to Charlie?
Oh,
Sheen?
sorry. Gotcha.
Which sounds way more
He started
badass
out
than
in the
Charlie
80s.
Sheen. Whatever. We all know his papa, Martin Sheen. Then there's his big brother, Emilio, who is a huge...
Emilio Estevez.
Now, Hollywood has many bad boys, but Charlie is beyond that. There is not a word invented yet to describe his debauchery, but there has been a word invented to describe how talented he is. And that word is very, very talented. He has magnificent range. He can be a soldier, and he can spoof a soldier. That kind of career genre balance takes some skill. And I guess you can say the dude made a career off of misbehaving. He got in trouble.
Yeah, in the
He worked
80s,
for it.
he
His
was
real life bad boy
roles,
image
and it
probably
wasn't
helped
bad.
get some really interesting characters.
Platoon,
Charlie works
no,
hard and he plays hard. Often a little too hard. Sometimes he's winning. Sometimes he's
That became a
losing.
meme.
But he's always Charlie. So what the fuck happened to Charlie Sheen? WTF?
How do
Don't you mean to see how I party, man? It was epic. The run I was on made Sinatra, Flynn, Jagger, Richards, all of them just looked like, droopy-eyed, armless.
Oh my
His
god.
first film was the infamous unreleased Grizzly 2. I don't really think that counts. So Charlie's first official feature film was John Milius's Red Dawn, where he gets to kill some commies, alongside an all-star cast of young 80s heartthrobs. These radical teens made fighting the Soviet forces seem so far out. Then he played a murderous youth in The Boys Next Door, just like his daddy in Badlands. And then came the film Lucas, starring Corey Haim, which I don't really want to talk about, but we will. Later. This was followed by a small yet memorable role in the classic teen comedy Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Charlie played a strung-out drug addict, and in order to achieve this look, Charlie didn't take any drugs. This was before his heavy drug use. He just stayed up for 2 days.
He
Which is
did.
kind of odd because later he would become a real-life strung-out drug addict. Art became reality. Then there was The Wraith, which is one of those cheesy, fun 80s supernatural sci-fi adventures. And even
Never
though
heard
it's
of it.
bad, it's still pretty dang good.
Can't do that again.
But Charlie's big break came.
Yeah, Platoon.
His casting was a clever homage to his father's work in Apocalypse Now. This felt like it was Oliver Stone's way of saying, this is the new generation of cinema, telling new stories but with the same blood.
Oliver Stone is
Figuratively
awesome,
and
by the way.
basically saying that war continues on for generations. Charlie is our trusted narrator, and he guides us through this powerful story, which features an incredible ensemble cast. It's just amazing to think that at that time in his career, he was leading such a film. And this was one of the first films to send actors to boot camp for accuracy. And I guess it paid off because this bad boy won Best Picture, and Best Director, and others, like editing and stuff that most people don't care about except for editors. I'm an editor, I'm editing this.
It is.
Charlie Sheen earned a rightful spot alongside his daddy's Vietnam film, and he was only 20 years old. Platoon showed the world that Charlie was a legit movie star, and not just some guy related to famous people. And we would discover that Charlie Sheen absolutely shines under the direction of Oliver Stone. But before he could work with Oliver Stone again, there were the films Three for the Road and No Man's Land. Then came another wonderful Oliver Stone motion picture, Wall Street. In this film, Charlie is pretty much playing himself. But instead of a hotshot playboy actor whose dad is Martin Sheen, he's a hotshot playboy stockbroker whose dad is Martin Sheen. Remember, everyone, greed is good. And so is this movie. There's this incredible scene that's a father and son blow-up at the end of the second act. This particular scene right here was brought up to me by a good friend of mine from film school. This guy is the biggest Wall Street fan I've ever met.
Whoa.
He's my go-to Wall Street insider info guy. For the movie, not the real Wall Street. So this film school friend always says that this scene is either the best acted scene ever, or it's a real Sheen emotion showdown. You decide.
What I see is a jealous old machinist who can't stand the fact that his son's become more successful than he had. You see, I never measured a man's success by the size of his wands. That's because you never had the guts to go out into the world and stake your own claim.
Now, I think most of us can agree that Charlie
Dang,
Sheen
I didn't
has
see this
what
one.
he is with Oliver Stone, and unfortunately, their relationship suffered when Oliver cast Tom Cruise in Born on the 4th of July instead of Sheen. Which is fine, but this really offended Sheen. He didn't even get a phone call from his good buddy Stone. They didn't speak for years.
Oh.
It's unfortunate, because imagine all the things they could have done. So the Stone Age was over, even though they were able to patch things up many years later for a Wall Street Money Never Sleeps cameo. Then he worked with brother Emilio Estevez in the Western Young
He
Guns.
didn't last long.
It's a really fun take on the Billy the Kid story. It's like a watered-down mainstream version of the Wild
Oh, yeah, my mom loved that.
Hollywood hotshots.
Well,
It's fun, I like it. He joined the cast of the critically acclaimed 8 Men Out, the story of the 1919 World Series scandal. And then there was another critically acclaimed baseball film, Major League. It's
oh
really
yeah,
funny.
the Major League.
He's perfect in the role as a baseball bad boy in it. Sheen loves baseball.
He does.
His star was rising, and he was the king of the Hollywood 80s party scene. Charlie knew how to have a good time, and that cocaine always seemed to find a way up his nostrils. And those hookers, they always seemed to find a way up into his hotel. Those hotels, he always seemed to find a way to smash them up. Then Charlie took a shot at being an action hero in the film Navy SEALs, which many critics called embarrassing for the platoon actor. See you later! Then there was some more brotherly love in Men at Work. This film divided audiences, many didn't like it, but others consider it a cult classic. He tried the military movie thing again with Cadence, directed by his daddy, but it fell short of impressing most people. Charlie Sheen's personal life often overshadows anything he does on the silver screen. In
Yeah, it does.
1990, he shot Kelly Preston. That's right, Charlie Sheen shot his then fiancée, Kelly Preston, with a f***ing bullet from a f***ing gun. Accidentally. She survived, and went on to marry John Travolta instead, who has not shot her. Yet. Charlie got to act with
She passed
and
away.
directed by Clint Eastwood in The Rookie, which is always an honor. But then Charlie took everyone by surprise and embraced the art of the smooth, with the hilarious film Hot Shots. This film looks fun at Top Gun, and is just a wild good time of pure silliness. It's sad that they don't make comedies like this anymore. I guess the Scary Movie franchise is somewhat to blame for that, which Charlie was a part of, but we'll get to that later. Hot Shots was so funny that they made a part 2, this time spoofing the Rambo-style action movies of that era. This parody does a great job at pointing out the absurd ultra-violence in modern cinema, while also serving as a message about war, the human condition, and how we can... Actually, it's just a funny movie. I mean, silliness.
All the rest of the movies are good. I just said the third one. Third one
Wow.
doesn't hate.
Wow. That's just comedy right there. They make fun of Saddam Hussein. Funny chicken sandwich. Look at that chicken. And even though this film was not serious at all, Charlie took his preparation for the film very seriously. He worked out for 8 hours a day in order to achieve his Rambo bod. He wanted audiences to laugh at the
But at least he
jokes
took it seriously.
and gags, and not his out-of-shape bod. That needed to be the one believable thing to hold the film together, or else everything would have just exploded. And of course, the film breaks the fourth wall with beloved Papa Sheen.
I loved you in Wall Street!
Wow.
By this time, Charlie's partying was at an all-time high. Charlie soon found himself consumed in rehab and interventions, so he stayed sober for a year and 1 day to prove a point. He started up again the second those 366 days were over. I'm not sure what his point was, but he proved it. Sober for a year and a day, you did it. Then you just went right back into your old ways. Charlie does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, to whoever he wants, however he wants, and he wants it all. So Charlie was partying it up, being silly on screen, but he also got serious too, with Beyond the Law, a straight-to-video release. But this film proved that he can bounce back and forth between genres like his Pong. And it also proves that he needed to do straight-to-video films to pay the bills, and to pay for his drugs, and his hookers. At this point in time, Charlie Sheen should have been at the level of Tom Cruise, but he wasn't. He has a supporting role in Christopher Coppola's Deadfall, but Charlie and everybody else is overshadowed by the juggernaut that is Nicolas Cage. Then there was the Three Musketeers, which I'm surprised Disney even let him in this film, considering how much of a risk he was. But he's Charlie Sheen.
Whoa! Oh yeah, he was in
The Three
that.
Musketeers is an underrated thrill ride, in my opinion. It's one of Disney's best, of that type of Disney movie. I'd put this up there with Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. Charlie, Kiefer, and Platt are the perfect heroes for this adventure. This film is fun, thrilling, and it doesn't take itself too serious. But it's also not like straight-up Mickey Mouse stuff.
There's another one.
It's just some good old swashbuckling Alexander Dumas-inspired fun. And you can now watch The Three Musketeers on loop on Disney+. He did another action film, The Chase, which Roger Ebert said was slick, charming, but had little to it. He returned to the baseball diamond in Major League 2, but critics tore it apart, saying that the humor was flat and forced, which is a critique that sounds a lot like the comments on all my videos. Then there was another so-so action flick, Terminal Velocity. He plays a skydiver who battles the Russian mafia on a quest for gold. Sounds awesome. More scandal would come years later. Not only did Charlie go into drug rehab, his true womanizing ways were revealed. When a little black book shook up Hollywood, Charlie's name was all over it. The little black book belonged to a Hollywood Madam of the Night.
Yep.
This revealed that Charlie spent at least $50,000 on high-class call girls in 1 year's time. Charlie Sheen was almost proud of this. He was not ashamed. His shameless and brutally honest attitude pretty much saved his career. He was just like, yep, that's me. That's who I am. That's what I do. I'm Charlie Sheen. Other movie stars would not survive such scandals. But he owned it and used it to create this image of a bad boy that he had never seen before.
They're the best at what they do, and I'm the best at what I do, and together it's like, it's on.
But remember, girls, they're called bad boys for a reason. The wrath of Charlie continued after his girlfriend at the time claimed that he physically abused her. This resulted in misdemeanor battery and probation, and this was soon followed by a near-fatal drug overdose, and another rehab stay that lasted less than 1 day. But he still kept making movies. He took on an alien invasion in The Arrival, but this came out around the same time as Independence Day, and audiences could only handle one alien attack that year. And I'm just learning this now, but Charlie actually took over the role of Charlie in All Dogs Go to Heaven 2. That's his voice. It's not Burt Reynolds anymore. That's Charlie Sheen. Every child's favorite dead dog. He got chickenpox on Friends, the one with the chickenpox, and many know that Charlie Sheen is a real-life conspiracy theorist. He's one of the best. And his love/obsession with conspiracy theories has influenced many of his film choices.
Shadow Conspiracy,
which has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm sure there's some vast deep state conspiracy.
I've never heard of it for that reason.
He did the Brett Ratner buddy action comedy Money Talks. Critics didn't care for it, but audiences loved it, and it brought back some life into his career.
With Chris Tucker.
There was Bad Day on the Block, Postmortem, Code of Conduct, Letter from Death Row, written and directed and starring his buddy Bret Michaels from Poison. Free Money, 5 Aces. And we all know that Charlie loves his pornography, which is probably why he and his brother made the film Rated X, which is rated R. And he's in Being John Malkovich, but it's just a cameo. But it's a cameo worth mentioning. His television career then took off after he replaced Michael J. Fox on Sped City.
Yeah, I did.
Is now so
Somebody
things
thinks
were really
Brett
good for him. People
FX.
really liked him on this show. And this would open the doors to more TV success.
What are the odds?
And while he was doing that, he made a romantic comedy called Good Advice with his real-life love interest, Denise Richards.
Who he later married.
Denise Richards in 2002. And that same year, he won a Golden Globe for his work in Sped City.
This is so surreal. This is like a sober acid trip.
But only a few years into the marriage, a pregnant Denise filed for divorce. Apparently, it's hard to be married to Charlie Sheen. Denise claims that Charlie created a very dangerous environment to live in. He left guns all around the house and allegedly threatened to kill her, in addition to his addictions to gambling, pornography, and drugs. And his obsession with conspiracy theories was getting out of control. And it didn't take long for Charlie to marry again, but he threatened that wife with a knife, allegedly. So yet another abuse charge on Charlie.
I remember it.
He was arrested and spent Christmas in jail. And while researching the life of Charlie Sheen, I honestly have lost track of all of his domestic abuse allegations. So just from now on, just assume that every few years, Charlie gets in trouble for some reason or another. Yet he still continued to make films while dealing with all of these scandals. All of the crimes that Charlie has been accused of, he has denied. I believe most of them, at least. Charlie said he didn't do it. He returned to the world of the spoof with Scary Movie 3. It's no shots, but there's some silly goofiness that you could only hope for from a scary movie. Charlie's pretty much spoofing Mel Gibson in Signs here, and it features a scene of him fighting Michael Jackson. It doesn't get any more stupid than that, but it's supposed to be stupid, so that makes it smart. Right? Then there was a supporting role in The Big Bounce. Not bad. And in 2003, he played one of the men in the hit TV show 2.5 Men. This show was huge and made him the highest paid actor on television, eventually ranking in $2 million an episode. The character is loosely based on Charlie, but a safe for network TV version. So technically, his bad boy wild child image helped his career. And even with the horrendous laugh track, the show has its moments of hilarity. It's just nice to watch Charlie be Charlie. It's strangely charming to watch him just do his thing. Even though he keeps doing them, he hates the environment of the sitcom. Take after take after take. And the monotony is just not fun or funny for Charlie. And Charlie likes to have fun.
Charlie Harper? Yeah.
And of course, while all of this was going on, there was yet another abuse incident involving Charlie Sheen, porn star, trashed hotel, and the police. But Charlie is an invincible superstar who benefits from Hollywood elite privilege. The rules just don't apply to him. He's beyond the law. So while he was busy being the biggest television star in the world, he was also busy going on wild drug benders that would last for days and days. One of these benders even ended with Charlie in the hospital, even though Charlie claims he went to the hospital for a ruptured hernia after laughing at Dave Chappelle's blind KKK skit. But the studio says he went to the hospital because of a drug bender. And for some reason, I don't believe either of them. Those events and that behavior were very concerning to the show's producers, and this hit series was put on hiatus until
At least he gave a shout out to Dave Chappelle.
Even though Charlie insists that his partying never interfered with his work. He always showed up on time, he always hit his marks, he always said his lines. So I don't know. Sheen did not take the suggestion of going to rehab seriously and claims that he was in complete control of his life. He called into Alex Jones' radio show one day to discuss the hiatus from
I read this.
and that's when the media monster was created.
I think close to the last decade, effortlessly and magically converting your tin cans into pure gold. And the gratitude I get is this charlatan. Clearly someone who believes he is above the law. Well, even more, dude. Bring it.
He would hit the world with firing torpedoes of truth by releasing bizarre ranting videos, documenting his campaign against the television studio. He displayed so much confidence, so much craziness, so much Charlie. It was almost poetry. Charlie exposed his raw soul to the World Wide Web and it exploded. We were hanging on his every word. This was a pop cultural phenomenon unlike any other we had ever seen.
Was it? I remember.
Gaining over 1 million followers in one day. His world tour sold out in minutes.
2000
He really was a rock star.
2000
It was like having a
very
front row
interesting
seat
in the
to a
news.
celebrity breakdown in real time. It was so gosh darn fun and sort of sad, but it was always...
Yeah, it was a mixture of stuff.
Depending on your definition of that word. It's hard to describe, so I'm just going to let Charlie speak for himself.
Now that I have your lazy fucking attention, world, sit back and rejoice. For the Malibu Messiah, the Condor of Calabasas, the fucking warlock of your jealous face, is before you.
He was breaking down what it meant to be a celebrity in the most ugly and pure way possible. Was he spiraling? Or was he freeing himself? I don't know. This was unthinkable. The biggest TV star in the world was trying to destroy his own career in front of the whole world. And everyone loved watching it. This was his new show, and it was a smash hit. It was the most entertaining meltdown/awakening of all time. And during those few months of Sheen pandemonium, everywhere you went, people were trying to squeeze in that catchphase, winning into everything.
Yes!
And everyone who did
There was a girl that had it on the shirt at my high school.
Blah, 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 winning, yada, 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 winning. Everyone was trying to squeeze winning into every conversation. And I miss that. We should bring it back. Winning. It's hard to imagine now. It seems like a far-off dream or a nightmare, but Charlie Sheen was huge. For a while, it was like a cult, and we were all followers, whether we liked it or not. We were like, yes, what will you say next? All eyes were on this mighty warlock, who may or may not have been sober or sane. Some even called it performance art. Charlie is an actor with a very bizarre sense of humor, so it's quite possible. Others say it was drugs, and others say it was mental illness, and others say it was all of the above.
And everybody wins.
And all of this nonsense actually lost him the custody of his children. The studio eventually replaced him on 2.5 Men with Ashton Kutcher of all people.
I hope he actually
Killed him
is.
off,
I hope
ruined
he's
Ashton.
able to see
It always felt
him
like
now.
Charlie refers to this time period of his life as a meltdown that transformed into a melt forward. He claims that he got bored with all the drugs and partying and instantly willed his addiction to go away with only the power of his mind. And this seems strange to most people.
I'm not gonna lie, this does seem like performance art right
I had more
now. Now that he
than
mentions it.
me with it. Then he got his big comeback show that was supposed to be even bigger than 2.5 Men.
It was funny.
Once again, Charlie was playing a man named Charlie. Once again, his character is a baseball player. Now, I was all in on Charlie's wild, out-of-control melt forward ball, and I followed his every move during that time. And it felt like it was all leading to this moment of him getting his own show. But when it was time for that show to air, I had lost interest. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. And just like Charlie getting bored with his drugs and hookers, we got bored with Charlie. Maybe too much Charlie all at once. For lack of a better word, we overdosed on Charlie. And we were hungover, and we're like, no, I don't want another sitcom of him. No. I've had enough. That was plenty. It was fun while it lasted, but that's too much. Come on. That's what it felt like. And honestly, I've never seen an episode of Anger Management. Is it any good? I have no idea. Does this have anything to do with the Adam Sandler movie? I've always wondered that. It always confused me. Have y'all seen it? Comment your comment in the comments. So it wasn't the big hit we were all promised. And that same year,
It did well. I actually
wasn't
thought it
exactly great at that time, but I'm sure Charlie could argue differently.
I still got it.
He voiced a cartoon dog again in the god-awful animated film.
blows.
Oh, you saw
Charlie
this?
worked with another Coppola on A Glimpse into the Mind of Charles
No, the
Swan,
Nostalgia Critic reviewed it.
which Charlie thought would be his big...
In fact, the whole reason of how I got into the Nostalgia Critic was because he reviewed that movie after
Oh,
John reviewed it. And I was
okay.
like, who's this dude? And then, like, yeah, I got into him after that.
acting comeback, and I thought so too.
Almost like 5-6 years ago now.
It's not a horrible mess of a movie, but it's not a great movie either. It's not the only person who knew what to do.
Okay, this was pretty
was Robert
awesome.
Rodriguez by casting him as the president in Machete Kills, and he was
As
finally
Carlos
credited with his
Estevez.
birth name, Carlos Estevez. Then he did a family comedy written by David Spade called Mad Families. Now, I feel like I should give everyone a trigger warning, because I'm about to cover the following topics: 9/11, AIDS, Donald Trump,
What?
pedophilia.
Oh.
All subject matters I never thought I would discuss on JoeBlow.com, but it's come to this, and I blame Charlie. So here we go.
Stay tuned, good soldiers. I'll see you all very
Oh,
soon
boy.
on the battlefield.
Yeah, he was diagnosed with HIV in 2000. He did it in
Just when we thought the
2001.
tragic events of September 11, 2001 couldn't get any worse, Charlie Sheen, who is a 9/11 truther, by the way, had to go and make a movie about it. It came out in 2017, and as of now, this is pretty much Charlie's last feature film. 9/11 stars Whoopi. I haven't seen this film, but I did watch the trailer. It just feels like it's in very poor taste. I don't want to watch it at all. Now, United 93 and World Trade Center showed us that it is possible to do a tasteful, powerful, good movie about...
My dad loved World Trade Center.
But Charlie's movie doesn't seem like that. It just feels horrible on so many levels, on all of the levels. It's like, even Bin Laden probably thinks this film is in bad taste. Like,
Well, he was dead by then.
just when we thought that we had heard everything we were ever going to hear from Charlie, he breaks the news that he is HIV positive, and he has been for a few years. Now, yes, this is a surprising story.
What am I hearing?
I feel really bad for Charlie.
What?
What am I hearing? Oh, okay.
Sorry. But it really wasn't that shocking that a guy who spent decades doing drugs and prostitutes became...
Yeah, that wouldn't shock anybody.
I mean, I hate to be the guy to say it, but we all pretty much assumed that he had something, right? What is shocking is that Charlie had survived this long.
Well, we got drugs now for it.
Charlie nothing but happy, healthy days. But looking back, it does make all that tiger blood talk a little awkward.
Tiger blood, Adonis DNA. You, booger blood, poo-poo DNA.
He experimented with alternative medicine, and for a while it looked like Charlie was going to cure AIDS. But he didn't. Yet. But there is something positive about Charlie being positive, because his celebrity status has actually raised a lot of AIDS prevention awareness. Doctors have called it the Charlie Sheen effect. I'm not joking. It's called the Charlie Sheen effect.
Well, I have learned that the way they work is pretty interesting.
But this illness has not slowed down Charlie's scandals. Around that same time, he was being investigated for yet another death threat against yet another ex-fiancée. It just keeps on coming. Then Charlie got himself into hot water again when he took to Twitter and asked God to kill President Donald Trump. I'm sure everyone follows Charlie Sheen,
I'm not gonna lie,
but
yeah.
that's not a nice thing to do.
He's kind of
And just
weird.
when you thought the story of Charlie Sheen could not get any more controversial, then came that Corey Feldman documentary.
Okay, I don't know about...
We actually gathered around the TV screen and we stared at nothing until we fell asleep because hackers, they hacked it. Tell me we're here. But then the next day those hackers were defeated, and then we could actually learn the name of the Hollywood A-lister who allegedly raped Corey Haim. Now, many names were circling the rumor mills, and Charlie's name was one of them. And I actually remember his name being mentioned years before, so when it was revealed that Charlie Sheen was the alleged rapist of Corey Haim, we were all like, yeah, that's horrible, but you already told us that. Didn't we already know that? So it was kind of anticlimactic, but it was still very interesting to watch. And I know this is a very sensitive subject, and I honestly feel like Feldman is doing a brave thing. And I believe that Hollywood has been infested with some real evil people.
Oh,
Feldman
by
is bringing
far.
awareness to Hollywood
They have.
child abuse, and that is great. Now, do I 100% believe that a 19-year-old Charlie Sheen raped a 14 or 15-year-old Corey Haim on the set of Lucas? I don't know. I mean, you have to admit, Charlie Sheen is into some pretty weird stuff. And anything is possible in Hollywood, but I need more proof.
Well, I think that was before he even went crazy.
But no matter what, this is definitely something that's going to be hard to recover from, whether the allegations are true or false. I don't know. But this is JoeBlow.com, and we talk about movies, so let's go back to talking about movies. Yeah, movies! Charlie Sheen is in some good movies, and some bad movies. He's given us films like Wall Street, Young Guns, Major League, Hot Shots Part 2, Money Talks, The Three Musketeers, 8 Men Out, and frickin' Platoon, plus a stellar television career. He's a rock star from Mars, a warlord mega
He's repeating what
most
he said.
controversial person on the planet. Love him or hate him, the world will never be the same. It's Charlie Sheen parked on it. That's what the happened to Charlie Sheen. Winning.
This was well done, actually. But yeah, Charlie Sheen was older in the news in 2011. I know. He got his old roast on Comedy Central, for crying out loud. Okay, it's getting late.
Yeah, I might just go ahead.